Hey, what's up guys, Rick here from SmartByTrainers.com. The SmartPower unit from InsideRide is their third attempt to make the E-Motion roller a smart roller or a smart trainer. The original unit never made it out of the beta stage before they decided to scratch it off and go with the Elite Cubo Digital Smart Resistance Unit, which was basically the same resistance unit found in the Elite's Cubo Digital Smart B Plus trainers. Then they scratched this one off, and now we have this smart control unit. I really like this one. I don't know why they scratched it off. It had a rechargeable battery, so you can recharge it and just take the whole roller with you anywhere you want without having to drag the cord. But for whatever reason, they decided not to continue making this as a production unit. The new smart unit is ANT FEC and Bluetooth FTMS compatible, and it basically turns the E-Motion roller into a smart roller, and you can use it with any app that is compatible with any of these wireless protocols. If you just came into this video and not familiar with the E-Motion roller, I did talk about the roller itself and the floating fork in more details in part 1 of this video, which I will link to up here, and I also have a link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video or find it useful, I would appreciate it if you hit the like button, leave a comment, and might as well subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. The Smart Resistance Unit, or SmartPower as they call it, is an add-on that can be added to the E-Motion roller. When you purchase one for an additional $300, that would bring up the total to $1,200. Or if you already own the E-Motion roller Model H, you can purchase the Smart Resistance Unit for $365. If you already have the Model H roller, the setup process is pretty simple and straightforward. In my case, I had to remove the Cubo unit and install this one, the new unit. And if you plan on doing the same thing, hopefully you keep that original flywheel that you had to take off to install the Cubo. Otherwise, you'll have to get a new flywheel. The E-Motion SmartPower unit is best used with a power meter, and it will use your power meter to adjust resistance. This is usually referred to as power match. You can still use it if you don't have a power meter, and it will work just the same, but it will estimate power for you, and it's just not going to be accurate, most likely it will overestimate. Now, the nice thing about using power match, which is using the unit with your power meter, is it will always be accurate, or as accurate as your bike power meter. You don't have to worry about data discrepancies between your bike's power meter and your trainer's power meter. You're basically using one source for your data, and it's the same source it's the same source you use when you ride your bike outside or race. And as you know, a single source of truth is always a good thing. The one thing about power match though, it can have a little bit of a lag when in erg mode, and I'll talk about this in a little bit. Personally, the pros of using my bike's power meter, which I use for racing and outside riding, and I know it's always right, outweighs any cons. The SmartPower unit can be set up with the InsideRide app or mobile app. This companion app allows you to set up the Smart Resistance unit and controls all the functions of the roller. It's actually a pretty nifty little app. It does few jobs, but do them well. When you set up the app, you might be asked to create a subscription for $14.99. I received a code to activate the app for no cost when I received the unit, but when I talked to InsideRide about this subscription, they told me that anyone with a Smart Resistance unit should get this same code to activate it for free. And per my conversation with them, they said they plan on removing this subscription altogether from the App Store in a future update. So before you pull out your credit card or get all angry that you just paid over $300 for this unit and still have to pay $15 to set it up, make sure to talk to them or look for a code in the manual. Once you create your profile and enter your weight, you will see an option to pair a power meter in the setting area. Click on pair, and the unit will start looking for a close by ANT plus power meter and pair to the closest one. When it finds one, a connection will be established and you should see a solid blue light on the unit. That's basically it. From now on, the unit will search for that same power meter every time you turn it on, and you should see a solid blue light. The InsideRide app gives you different options to control the smart unit. It has 9 preset resistance mode, or erg mode, slope mode, wind mode, and just plain resistance mode. So it's a great option if you just want to use the app to control the resistance unit. These are all the ride details it will display for you. However, it will not save your ride data. So you will have to use some kind of a third-party app or a head unit like one from Garmin or Wahoo, for example, to save your ride data. According to InsideRide, the rollers have a maximum resistance of 800 watts and 10% slope. If you add the floating fork, the wattage floor and ceilings are both a bit lower. A lot of this is dependent on the rider race and rolling resistance. I'm not a sprinter, but I was able to hit 800 watts with more gear and resistance lift, so I'm confident that you can hit a lot more than that without any issue. However, you will definitely notice that 10% maximum slope. If you are climbing a steeper hill, you will not get any noticeable resistance beyond that 8 to 10%. As for just free riding on Zwift, the roller responded well to changes in the terrain in Zwift, and I didn't feel any noticeable delays. If anything, it was just as good as some of the direct drive trainers out there. Okay, so what about erg mode? The majority of my testing was done using power match feature, and the unit is best when used with a power meter. The unit did an amazing job reading and transmitting power data from my power meter. Just look at this chart. This is what the power data the unit broadcasted, and now I'm going to lay on top of it the data I recorded directly from my power meter. And ready for it? They are just perfect. I hardly ever see this. I know I'm recording the same data, but considering I was using Bluetooth to record one device and ANT Plus on the another device, I was expecting a little bit of a fluctuation or some kind of a delay, but it turned out to be just perfect. And did I say the unit also transmits cadence? Yes. If your power meter transmits cadence, the resistance unit will read that cadence data as well and send it in ANT Plus or Bluetooth. Just make sure to use the latest firmware because there was an issue with ANT Plus not broadcasting cadence data, and they got that fixed in the latest firmware. So this is great because if you use Zwift on Apple TV, then you don't have to worry about Bluetooth limitations with Apple TV. So you can pair it as a power meter, a cadence controllable trainer, and you'll have one port left for your heart rate monitor. Okay, back to erg mode. Erg mode worked fine. You might feel some fluctuation in resistance. It's not as smooth as a Neo or a Kicker, but overall I thought it did a good job. Okay, let's take a look at some data here. Here's a chart with some smoothing done. Oh, I'm sorry, that was from Wahoo Kicker. Okay, this is better. Here's the data from a recent workout I did using erg mode in Zwift, all done using the small chainring. The lines might look a little rougher to you, but remember, this is generally typical when using data from your power meter. Also, some trainers smooth out the data, giving you a very smooth line in erg mode. But let's take a look deeper inside one of the intervals. This is from a second 10-minute intervals, and everything looks good. However, this graph here is from the fourth 10-minute intervals. Sometimes you will feel a slight resistance increase, and then it goes down and up. It's a little slow reacting to cadence changes, resulting in these waves. It could also be power match slowly reacting to changes, but this tends to happen as fatigue sets in, like towards the end of a long interval or later in the workout when your cadence starts to get choppy. In this example, resistance increased all the way up to around 290 watts before dropping back down. And here's the data from a workout with power distribution for each interval. Overall, it kept me within plus minus 10 watts of my target 75% of the time during each interval, which is typically when you go right outside or use a big ring on a direct drive trainer. And for each block, I was only within 2 to 3 watts from target. Also, usually when doing intervals at or above your threshold, you will experience a lot more fluctuation in erg mode, even with the best trainers. Remember the first chart I accidentally showed you from the Kicker? Well, it's gonna look something like that. Another test I like to do is see how trainers respond in erg mode when in the big ring and small chain ring. Usually trainers tend to respond better in erg mode when you are in the small chain ring, like I've shown in my other video. Here's a look at this 2x15-minute workout. As you see, the power was a lot smoother, at least in the first 15 minutes, which I did in the small chainring. As you see here in the power distribution table, I spent 91% of the time within plus minus 10 watts of my target power. That is very good and just as good as the best trainers out there. Also, keep in mind here, the target power was much lower than the workout we talked about earlier. We're looking at tempo range here. In the second 15 minutes with the big chainring, I spent 76% of the time within plus minus 10 watts of my target power. Again, that's pretty good, and that's what you would see with other direct drive trainer. So at lower power, generally erg mode works much better. Erg mode is just tough at intervals at threshold or above, and I like to avoid using it for those type of workouts. Now you might notice a little bit of delay when hitting interval. Here is a test I like to do to show how the trainer responds in erg mode. These intervals are very short. They go from 30 to 10 seconds, and you can see how it was having a hard time catching up towards the end. So erg mode, I think it did very well. I would probably give it a B+, maybe A-. As for noise, rollers are just louder. With rollers, you have 3 drums and 3 different point of contacts, and it will make some noise. So if noise is important to you or you live in an apartment, this might not be the best choice for you. And here's how it sounds. So yes, it's a bit loud, not too bad if you keep that speed low, and so far it didn't wake anyone up in my house. The E-Motion is really one of my favorite trainer rollers. I've had mine since 2011, and that's why you see the paint chipping in some areas on the frame. It held up very well over the years, and I only replaced the belt so far once. I really enjoy the ride feel. I am more comfortable riding it than anything else out there. It's $1,200 with the resistance unit and $1,345 with the floating fork, and you have the options to use it as a roller if you want to, or a stationary trainer when you use a floating fork. So it's like having a 2-in-1 kind of a trainer. Either way, if you want more detail, check out the full review on the website smartbytrainers.com, and hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.